They were surrounded, outnumbered, and days away from food or water. Deep in unfamiliar jungle terrain, a group of warriors prepared for what they believed would be their final stand. Every map had failed them, every star hidden behind cloud. The forest, thick with silence, offered no clue of direction until an animal appeared. Not fierce, not large, a creature overlooked by most. It stepped from the undergrowth without fear, its movements steady, gaze unwavering. The warriors, hardened and skeptical, almost ignored it until it paused, turned its head back and waited. Then again and again, as if it wanted them to follow. At first they dismissed it, but the same animal returned each morning, never eating, never leaving tracks, just watching, waiting. One warrior, the youngest among them, convinced the others to follow it. Not with weapons drawn, but with open eyes. What followed was a journey that defied logic. The animal never rushed, never wandered. It weaved through vines, between stones carved with symbols no one recognized. It crossed streams whose waters ran colder than expected. Circled ruins never mapped, and always looked back, as if checking their trust. Hours turned to days. They passed landmarks too symmetrical to be natural. Trees grew in perfect lines. Stones hummed faintly beneath their feet. The path wasn't random. It was hidden, protected, designed not by man but something older. Finally, they emerged into a clearing. Water shimmered from a spring that hadn't existed on any known route. Fruit-bearing trees lined the edge, and just beyond a path leading home. When they turned to thank the creature, it was gone. Later, they learned that locals called that animal the Watcher. Generations spoke of its appearances in times of great need. Always leading, never returning. Some believed it was no ordinary creature, but a messenger from an ancient world. A guardian left behind not to speak, but to show. No one could explain how it always appeared where it was needed most, or how it knew routes lost even to the oldest maps. But every warrior who followed it lived to tell the tale, and each one said the same thing. The animal didn't just lead them to safety, it led them to remembrance. In times of confusion, we search for signs in stars, books, and voices. But sometimes nature sends a guide with no words, just trust. To hear more untold stories of survival, intelligence, and mysteries, nature never meant us to forget. Subscribe, like, and comment on The Forgotten Path. Now let's get back to the story. The air hung heavy with humidity, broken only by the distant calls of unseen birds. The sky, a hazy blue, offered no solace from the relentless sun. Each step was a battle against the encroaching vines and thorny bushes that seemed to have claimed this place as their own. But the warriors pressed on, their determination fueled by desperation. Among them was Kellen, the youngest of the group. His face, though adorned with tribal tattoos, was still smooth, untouched by the harsh lines of worry that etched themselves onto one's features over time. His father, a seasoned tracker, had taught him the ways of the forest. He knew when to listen to the wind, what language the leaves spoke in, and how to read the secrets whispered by the earth beneath his feet. Even he had reached his limits here. Days ago, his normally keen senses had started to betray him. The tracks they relied upon to navigate this dense jungle had vanished as if erased by an unseen hand. The animals that usually guided them with their presence had fallen silent. The stars, usually their steadfast companions at night, were hidden behind a thick canopy of clouds, leaving them in perpetual darkness. Then there were the whispers, rumors of an ancient curse that clung to these parts, a curse that scrambled the mind and led men astray, never to be seen again. Fear, a palpable entity, had begun to coil around their hearts, squeezing the hope out of their lungs. Yet amidst this despair, a tiny movement caught Kellen's eye. A small creature, nimble and quick, had darted across their path. It was neither a monkey, which would have fled at their approach, nor a venomous snake, which would have slithered away into the undergrowth. It was something in between, something they had all grown up hearing about in hushed tones around campfires. Something called the Watcher. The warriors froze, their steps, which had been echoing the urgency of their plight, coming to a halt. The Watcher. The mere mention of its name sent shivers down their spines. It was a creature of myth and legend, spoken of in hushed voices as a harbinger of change, a guide to those who were lost, Its appearance was said to be a sign of great upheaval, a turning point in one's fate. But the Watcher's intentions, whether benevolent or malevolent, were shrouded in mystery. Some believed it was a messenger from the spirit world, a guide leading souls to their final resting places. Others saw it as a trickster, an entity that reveled in leading travelers astray, causing them to wander in the wilderness until they perished. And now here it was, standing before them, daring them to follow. Their instincts screamed at them to flee, to run and hide from whatever destiny the Watcher had in store for them. Yet Kellen, driven by a mix of youthful naivety and desperate hope, decided to stay. He motioned for the others to do the same, his eyes fixed on the Watcher, willing it to lead them out of this nightmare. As if sensing their hesitation, the Watcher took a step forward, then another. It stopped, turned its head back over its shoulder and stared at them, its gaze unwavering. Then it turned and disappeared into the thick undergrowth, emerging moments later at the edge of their camp. It paused again, turned back, and waited. This time, two of the warriors, their faces etched with worry and skepticism, couldn't resist the pull of curiosity any longer. They stood up, their movements stiff from days of sitting and watching, and followed the Watcher, their weapons held loosely in their hands, ready for any eventuality. The Watcher led them deeper into the forest, moving with a grace that belied its small stature. It hopped over fallen logs, ducked under low-hanging branches, and squeezed through narrow gaps in the undergrowth. The warriors, burdened by their armor and weapons, struggled to keep up, their steps echoing their growing unease. For hours, they journeyed through the oppressive quiet of the jungle. The Watcher never rushed, never hesitated. It moved with a purpose, as if it knew exactly where it was going. Every now and then, it would stop, turn back and wait, its dark eyes seeming to pierce through the warriors' facades, testing their resolve. Each time it did so, a sense of foreboding washed over them, making them question their sanity. But it was Callan who noticed something the others didn't. The jungle, for all its apparent chaos, seemed to be parting for them, revealing a path that was both ancient and secret. Vines that had been impassable became stepping stones. Thorny bushes yielded, creating a corridor through their ranks. Fallen trees that had blocked their way minutes ago now lay in neat rows, forming a makeshift passage. As they ventured further, the jungle's demeanor shifted. The air grew cooler, the sunlight softer. Strange symbols carved into tree trunks marked their progress. Each one was unlike the others, yet together they formed a language that the warriors couldn't understand. And then the Watcher stopped. It stared straight ahead, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. The warriors, their bodies aching and spirits weary, could see why. Before them stretched a sight that defied the very essence of the surrounding jungle. It was a clearing bathed in a soft, ethereal light. A spring bubbled merrily in its center, its water sparkling like 1,000 diamonds. Fruit-laden trees lined the perimeter, their branches laden with ripe offerings. And in the distance, a path beckoned, leading towards the familiar horizon of their home. Relief washed over the warriors, so intense it was almost painful. They had found a way out. Their ordeal was almost over. But as they turned to thank the Watcher, it had vanished, leaving them to their salvation. Later, when they recounted their tale to the villagers, they learned that the Watcher was no ordinary creature. It was a guide, a protector, a being that appeared in times of great need, leading the lost to safety. The locals spoke of it with reverence and fear, recognizing its role in their history while acknowledging its enigmatic nature. No one knew where the Watcher came from or why it chose to appear before them. But its presence had saved them, guiding them not just to safety, but to a part of the jungle that was untouched by the darkness that had enveloped their path. And so, the warriors returned home, forever marked by their encounter with the Watcher. They carried with them not just the memory of their ordeal, but the realization that in the darkest of times, the smallest of creatures can be the greatest guides. If you enjoyed this tale, please remember to like and subscribe for more stories. And if you have your own forgotten path to share, we would love to hear it in the comments below.